All right, guys, we're here today with Professor Paul Schmitt, and he's going to tell us the history of the skateboard.
It all starts with a metal roller skate like this, right? These roller skates were made in the first half of the last century, industrial revolution. So we're talking factory-made stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, skaters didn't make this. This truck has a little rubber grommet in here. It turns a little bit. It doesn't look like a truck we know today.
Oh, wow, it actually turns.
Yeah, wheels are metal, right? You know,
Yeah.
so these are very common toys. The boys would take them apart, make a skate crate out of them. Bang this metal down, put it on the bottom of a 2x4, and then take a crate and put a handle on it, and it's the first scooter, right?
Oh, I see. We've come a long way skateboarding.
Yes, we have. But so the reality is the Industrial Revolution made this possible, right?
Yeah.
We have all the principles here. We have 4 wheels that roll. We have rubber grommets. We have the ability to turn.
And
So,
what year is this around?
First half of the last century. There's pictures of 1920s,
1920s?
Yeah, I mean, 100 years ago. This is
Wow.
over 100 years. I think the quad roller skate was patented by a furniture maker in New York in like 1880 or something like that.
Wow.
From what I remember research-wise. But basically, it just became just a toy people would make, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then the classic story is that the crate came off and you had to get home and you just push the board, right?
Yes.
You know, and these wheels, there's no grip to be had there. So they're slippy, they're slidey.
Right.
You know? And the crazy thing about it is I made a reproduction crate skate, a crate I bought at a barn sale in Central California one time when I went to skate camp.
Yeah.
And I made a crate and I had it and I put it together and I went and did a presentation for Van's sales department. I go to ride the skate crate and I go to turn and I get crate bite.
Yeah.
That's when the crate hits the ground. That's why the crates fell apart, because
Okay.
of crate bite. So we got wheel bite because crate bite existed.
Okay.
So basically, you know, the commercial skateboard didn't start to happen until the late 50s.
Until the late 50s.
Late
Okay, so
50s.
people were making their own stuff
They were
with
just
roller
making
skates.
stuff out of roller skates.
And where would they get this? Just from...
I mean, there was this common toy, right? Toy
Okay,
store
just
toy.
a straight up... Okay.
Steal it from your sister, find it left in the neighborhood or something.
And
you
this
know?
is like, this would go over a shoe?
Yeah, we go over a shoe and we have a strap right here. The strap broke off on this one, you know?
Oh, wow.
Just
So
strap,
this is for a very small
strap
foot.
it on. Yeah, that one's for a small foot.
So the Industrial
true.
Revolution is the birth of skateboarding.
Right. But then skateboarding got DIY, right?
Right.
You know, so literally like some of the first production skateboards, they look like they're a piece of fence. Same mechanisms, just on a flat metal plate instead of the rest of the stamped metal, right?
Yeah.
The roller skate industry in general was based out of the Midwest. So everybody credits California. Skateboarding came from California. We don't really know where it came from, but we know the roller skates didn't come from California.
They came from the Midwest.
They came from the Midwest.
Shut up, Midwest. Birth of skateboarding.
That's right. Roller derby is still in business in Litchfield, Illinois.
I think these are coming back. The quads.
Yeah.
There's a quad scene that's pretty.
There's a quad scene. I mean, in San Diego, there's a big quad scene. I
Yeah.
skate at Poods and I skate at Linda Vista all the time.
And quads
Quad
are rolling
skaters
there.
are, yeah.
So sick. Okay, so we have literally, take me through this here.
You said you were interested in skateboard history, so
Yes.
I thought I would dig up some history to talk about, right?
Love it, yes.
So great examples of history is printed media is history, right?
Right.
So these are actually reprinted issues of Skateboarder magazine from
Wow.
1964.
Wow, this is the oldest one you got.
Right, so
the
the-
Quarterly Skateboarder.
The Quarterly Skateboarder. Okay, so that's the first issue.
Wow,
And,
look at that.
So these were reproduced by Transworld a few years back. But basically after 64, skateboards weren't commercially produced until the 70s.
Wow.
When the urethane wheels came out. Because there were so many made, there was such a surplus of product out there, and all the product had steel wheels or clay wheels.
So what's this right here?
That's a clay-wheeled skateboard.
It looks like a...
So he has a truck. So this is now a truck that has a pivot with 2 bushings in it like we're used to.
Right.
So literally this ski skate, that's one of the first production skateboards.
This is it, the skateboard that started it all. The original ski skate, over 500,000 sold and still the leader. This is a wild
Right,
advertisement.
so look, it looks like a piece of a fence, right?
Yeah.
But this is 64, and now the 64 models look like surfboards.
Yeah,
So
I have a board that looks very
The
similar.
products progressed, right? I don't know how the Tiger Mite's doing out there in the marketplace
The
these days,
Tiger
but
Mite.
That's a scooter, right?
Yeah. Motorized sidewalk surfer.
Here's
Sure.
Roller Derby. So that's a big roller skate company. So you see their red board. This is one of the mass-produced boards as well. So you see that one looks pretty much just like that, right? They're copying
Yeah.
each other. Oh, they made an ugly one that looks like a fence. We'll make an ugly one that looks like a fence. You know, but then they got to have the surf influence after that, right?
And look at this. This is an amazing graphic.
Oh yeah. From the era-esque of it is rad, right?
Yeah.
However, her balance and how she's pushed and got her body, she's all wrong. Right?
What do you mean? She's killing it.
No, it looks rad, but yeah, it's all wrong, right? You know?
Yeah.
You know, so the interesting thing about printed media is you could debate in the modern world in digital, like somebody can make anything and,
Right.
you know, and
Right, and say it's this.
say
or
it's this or
that.
say it's that, like what's real, right? Where printed media happened,
Right.
you know?
It's so true.
And it's very interesting because we really don't have printed media nowadays, right? The
That
well-dressed
is
skateboarder.
So cool.
So here's the new slalom land surfer, a three-wheeled thing.
What in the world?
But the best thing about skateboarding is I'm moving, I feel some vibration through my feet,
Yeah.
I feel some air on my face. You know, wherever you're at, you decided where you're at, you decide what you're doing, you decide what you're gonna do with it, right?
Right. Freedom. The freedom
It's just
involved.
the freedom, it's the ultimate choice, right?
Yeah.
Like you get to choose. you
Yeah.
know? Here's an example of 1964 of a truck, you know, that's really what our skateboard trucks are today, right? It's got two bushings, kingpin, it's got a pivot.
Double action turning. And this is 1964.
This is 64, yep. But you can get the 23-inch bum buster for $9.95.
The 23-inch bun buster.
35-inch bum buster for $10.95.
Oh, wow. So the skateboard industry is very small at this point in 1964.
Yeah, it's really surf industry.
Surfing.
Right? And the whole influence and the vibe and feel of it is really surfing. So Skateboarder magazine was made by Surfer magazine.
Okay.
And it was made by them because so many people were advertising skateboards in their surf magazine.
That is so interesting.
And then, they only made it for a year. It was only 4 issues in the 60s and then it was gone.
I feel like surfing is A, much harder, and B, more like it's amazing to me that surfing started first. Like somebody
Yeah.
was like, let's put a piece of wood and ride that wave before they were like, put wheels on that thing.
For some reason, I should have thought about bringing the first skateboarder from '74 and I didn't bring it. I grabbed a couple old ones that had some significance to me. This is January 1979.
Okay, so we're going from 64 to 79.
In January that year, I went to my first skateboarding trade show. Here's Alan Gelfand, the inventor of the Ollie.
Whoa.
Okay, here's his Who's Hot. And he's telling you about the trick and what he's doing and that kind of thing. The general advice, skate every day and humor helps, you can't be too serious.
Look at this. 15 years old, rides for Paul Peralta.
Right, and Paul Peralta was a brand new company then.
Whoa.
You know, second year of business by the time.
79.
Yep.
Shout out Paul Peralta.
Exactly.
These people that just keep the industry going.
So Alan's from Hollywood, Florida. So I
Wow.
grew up in Tampa, Florida as a teenager.
Oh yeah?
So I would meet him, see him in skate parks and contests all the time. And then my first product was rails.
Oh,
because
really?
back then rails were grab rails for doing aerials.
Specifically rails made just to grab the board.
Just to grab the board. And basically they would break real easy. And he was like, well, I want to slip, I don't want to grip. So there's no concave in a skateboard yet.
Okay.
So imagine the surface tension of no concave and trying to go rail slide this right here.
Yeah.
With no concave, right?
Look at this. What do we got going on here?
So that's a Tracker Coper.
The Coper. So this
Yeah.
is many people will not know what a Coper is.
Right.
How do you explain that? You can explain it better than me.
Well, basically it goes on the truck to protect the surface you're grinding, whether it's the coping at the skate park, so we don't grind gaps into it.
Oh, wow.
Or make it easier to grind. 50-50 a curb.
So it was to protect the surface, not your trucks.
Both.
Okay.
But make it easier. It was an aid, right? So really plastic was all about an aid.
Oh, wow. Look at this. Double trucks.
8-wheeler.
8-wheeler
But
wide
that's
track.
not the Lonnie Toft 8-wheeler, that's the copy 8-wheeler, right? Because that's what people would do, they would copy each other. Lonnie Toft was the originator that made the 8-wheeler. He was a pro skater for Sims. It was a commercial model.
And what was the point of an 8-wheeler?
Challenge yourself.
Oh, really?
The crazy thing about an 8-wheeler is you literally got to put your body weight on one side of it to get it to turn.
Oh, I see.
And the guys that can ride them blow me away.
And how wide is this thing?
Let's see, does it-
15 inches wide?
does it-
I don't even think they make a skateboard that wide now.
And
How wide is the Eggzilla? Like 11 or something?
11 or
right?
12, yeah. So Alan told me if rail slid, that'd be cool. So
Yeah.
I made them out of wood already, and then I put Formica on them, and they still broke easy. And
Yeah.
then I just got UHMW plastic and made them out of plastic, and they became slide rails. And that was
Amazing.
78. And literally, I took it to my first trade show in January of '79
Wow.
at Surf Expo in Florida and started to sell it.
Yeah.
Val Surf still exists. I actually got a mail order t-shirt from them when I was a kid. There's Lonnie Toff's model right there, not the 8-wheeler one, but just his regular one.
Yeah. So you've been in business since '79.
Yep. I was just a kid doing what I was doing, right? Didn't know what it would become.
Passion project.
Totally. You think I would spend my career doing this? No hope, right?
That's right.
That wasn't going to happen.
That's right.
Here's a Kanoa ad.
Kanoa Surf.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I've never even heard of that.
They were a shop in Redondo Beach, California. So them and Val Surf are the big mailer. Val Surf is still with us.
Look at these wheels, are amazing. Alligators.
Z grooves,
So
Z
much-
smooths.
What? Okay, so
There's
they
grooves
have
in that wheel, and those smooth.
Z groove, Z smooth. Shout out Shark Wheels. And this is signed?
That's Chris Stolpel. Yeah, he's on the cover.
Wow.
So when I have pros for the skateboard magazines, so I have 5 cabinets of skateboard history magazines in my shop.
Yeah.
One row is my childhood.
Okay.
Right. The rest of it is me doing my thing. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so when the pros are in the shop and I grab some from the first shelf.
Yeah.
You know, and say, hey, sign this for me. It's Raj. You know.
And you've had pretty much everybody in your shop.
Yeah, over the time. So this one was this is the June '79 issue of Skateboarder. So it's part of that feeling close to things because Mike McGill and Alan Gilfin have an interview in here. McGill lived near Tampa and Newport Richey, so he was a local at Rainbow Way with me.
It's a lot of skaters coming out of Florida.
Well, see, the reality is that in between McGill, Gilfin, and Mullen, it was clear I wasn't very good on a skateboard. Because they were good, right?
Yeah.
You know, but I was good at making things, starting with rails and then boards, ramps. I built lots of ramps. So here's their interview in Skateboarder. Here's McGill at my local park. So this felt like being far away. You can imagine when you lived in Montana, right? You're so removed from what's in the magazines and what's happening.
Right.
In Florida, in a sense, we were, but in a sense, we had this little slice of it, right? Because our people were in the magazine.
Right.
And that perspective. And then not knowing the way Alan's trick would just become the foundation for modern skateboarding.
Yeah, so you were around
and
for
then
that.
Rodney would take it where Rodney took it.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like just like the really prehistoric side of skateboarding, right? So
Yeah.
The urethane wheel was brought to us by Frank Nasworthy. It was made for roller skates already. He brought it to the skateboard.
Really?
And those Cadillac wheels.
Okay, so we started with roller skates here.
Yep.
And then urethane wheels started with roller skates. So we really just need
We
to
owe
credit.
it to the roller skate.
Yeah, thank you, roller skating.
Yeah. Exactly. Roller skating has been great.
Shout out the quad gang.
We'll
So
start-
then in the 80s, the boards start getting wider, right?
Yeah, well that happened around 80. If you look at 78 boards were 7 to 8 inches wide. And as they went into laminated plywood, they became 9 to 10 inches wide. And there was even a Dogtown chairman of the board at 12 inches, you know, but
Oh, wow.
10 by 30 was sort of the common skateboard size.
10 by 30?
10 by 30.
And these are like the fish decks, basically.
Some are fish shaped, but really just a pig shape first. So here's Thrasher 83. So here, for instance, is
When was the first Thrasher?
January 81. So this is 83.
January 1983.
Yep,
And look
this-
at that. It was $1.25.
$1.25. Lance Mountain in the cover.
Shout out Lance Mountain.
Yeah, you can see that
Okay, yeah, look
these
at
boards
these
are all
boards.
pig shaped, right? This is
Pig
sort of
shape. I've never even heard that before.
But that's what they'd be called in the 70s, is they were pigs, because the board got wide and they called them a pig.
Oh my. These are the kind of things that you would never learn anywhere else.
Right.
You had to be with somebody who was there.
Yep. For instance, actually this magazine, I was up here in the Bay Area because I had family that lives here for Christmas '82, and I literally brought this magazine to Lance at Skate City Skate Park, which is where that picture's taken. There's Lance.
Oh, cool.
And basically, what you're talking about, a fish shape, sort of started with Hosoi and his boards. He's the one that sort of brought the change of shape in
Oh, really?
and influenced that a lot. If you look at these are all very similar in shape, right? Some have a little winger in the back, but in general, they're pig shapes.
So we got the trick tip here,
Right.
50-50
Right.
switch foot, Stacy Peralta with Rodney Mullen
Yep.
on board.
Here's my Schmitt sticks rails are in here for $5.95. You could buy from Skate Park Paramount.
Look at that ad. That is
Yep.
so cool.
Mr. Tony, Mr. Mike, Mr. Rodney, Mr. Steve. So here, skateboarding sort of is, in the early 80s, was very not much of a commercial thing, not many people in business.
Yeah.
But sort of 85, skateboarding started to grow. Then Back to the Future movie came out, and that was like a social point where people saw some skateboarding in media.
Yeah.
And then skateboarding blew up for a couple years.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that I find so interesting, is when like skateboarding as a culture, as a thing hits outside. And then recently we had some things in 2016 with some celebrities wearing Thrasher t-shirts.
Right.
And that
Totally.
blew it up as well.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what happens there. So this is Joe's ramp jam. So that's Steve Caballero.
Yeah.
Here at Joe Lope's ramp.
Joe?
You ever hear the stories of that ramp?
No.
So that
Never heard of Joe Lope's ramp.
Joe Lopes had a ramp here in San Leandro.
In San Leandro?
Yeah.
Is Joe Lope still around?
No, he's not. He passed away in a car accident in the early 2000s, sorry to say. This ramp was basically the first contest ramp.
San Leandro, California.
Yeah.
That is so wild.
There's Joe's parents. The ramp was 20 feet wide. There was no yard. 100% of the yard was taken up by the ramp. You know, so here we got Thrasher, GNS, Pal Peralta, Gullwing.
So there's a lot of skate history in this area.
Yeah, a whole lot. Here's Tony Magnuson. They put a bridge of death over the channel. So he's doing an invert on it. So there you see the channel's open, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's on it. McGill
Yeah.
doing a channel plant.
So cool. So Fausto did a lot for the
Oh, yeah.
growth of skateboarding.
So literally this became a blueprint. So I lived in Florida. Well, we've had our backyard ramps that we built.
Yeah.
We started to run contests the same way.
Oh, wow.
Literally at the end of 83, people would come to Florida for a contest at Kona they would have every year.
Yeah.
And everybody came to our ramp in St. Pete, which was 24 foot wide and 16 feet of flat bottom. It's like a new standard for a ramp.
Wow.
And everybody came, we had a pro contest, and then Fausto came and helped me run one that end of that year. This is actually that contest. I actually took that picture of McGill. I had lots of pictures in Thrasher back in that era because it was documenting what we were doing. Here was sort of the pros coming to Florida. The guys from Texas would always come over. This is a ramp they skated in Atlanta.
Wow, look at that transition. It's not looking so great.
Here's Christian Nasoy at Kona. He's got my rails on his board.
Okay, so this is, again, pig shape.
Right, that's pig shape. So classic, yeah. That's Kona's results because it was a Kona Veriflex Summer Nationals.
Steve Caballero, $500.
Yeah. So this is a ramp that was up near Washington, D.C. So Midwest Melee, that's where Fausto did a contest in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So we did the one in St. Pete. He did Lincoln, Nebraska. He did Joe Lope's Ramp Jam. So these backyard ramp contests.
So now what's this say? Screamer. New
Sim
Screamer.
Screamer.
10 by 30 concave. So this is where you're starting to get the concave or what?
Yeah, concave started pretty much in 80.
Yeah.
And by 81, it was absolute.
Everybody had
Everything
to have
was
concave.
Yeah.
And this is where the board changed from, now it's starting to be like what a skateboard is now.
Right, 7-ply.
7-plies.
Yeah. Different grain orientations, but basically the 7-ply board is what allowed it to get wider and then allowed concave to happen.
So who came up with, oh, we should make concave, we should make it 7-ply?
To my knowledge, the first commercially sold concave board was the Dogtown Triplane. However, a year before that in Florida, my friend Mike Daly comes back from a contest in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and he's got this board
Yeah.
he won. And it's
Yeah.
a Woody Woodcarver board. It's solid oak,
Yeah.
and it's got concave in it. And when I finally met that guy 20 years later, and,
Yeah.
and I found him through friends and then called him, what was that board about? And he's like, well, when I surfed and my board would get broken in, I liked how it felt where my foot was when my surfboard was broken in. And I just took a skill saw and carved out concave in my solid wood board.
Oh,
And they
wow.
became Woody Woodcarver boards. But that's happening in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
The Boulder board built the Dogtown boards. They were in Colorado that
Yeah.
built them. Dogtown was a brand in California.
Right.
So things are happening at the same time, multiple places. It's like even with the plastic grab rails, right?
Yeah.
Could I say it was absolutely first? No. Anybody could have done it. You know, but Schmitt sticks were known as rails.
Yeah.
Until I started to make boards.
Yeah.
You know, that was like 83.
So you started making boards in 83.
Yep. Commercially selling it.
And how,
I made my own boards for 5 years. They just weren't very good. They weren't good enough to sell yet. You know, they were just continuing to try, right?
see a lot of these board shapes, this style is coming back.
Piggy, yeah, bigger boards. The curb generation of skateboarding coming back, right?
Yeah, ugly sticks.
Sticks. So they made rails called ugly sticks.
Oh yeah.
So they had sticks, STIX, like I did.
Yeah.
They were the knockoffs, and people were confused.
Oh really?
No, I don't make ugly sticks. That's the example of business people doing business. It wasn't skaters making products. It was,
Right.
you know, a business person making rails because they had an injection molding machine and they knew how to do that part.
Right. And you're a real skater, and then you had the idea, and then they took the idea and went from there.
Yep, exactly. So that's the early 80s, right? So let's jump into later 80s because now the skateboards look very different.
So 80s changed a lot. Also, just the quality of this magazine.
Yeah, so this is Transworld, and it came out as color magazine, you know, printed glossy paper. Thrasher was created by Fausto at Independent Trucks.
Yeah.
To promote skateboarding and what he was doing.
Because he started independent and he
yeah.
needed a way to promote the trucks?
Yeah, and promote skateboarding because there was no magazine. When Skateboarder went out of business, it went from Skateboarder to Action Now to out of business.
Wow.
Action Now had all kinds of other sports in it. They were grasping, trying to keep it going, right?
Right.
But it wasn't skateboarding anymore. It was all this mixed up stuff.
Action Now, I never even heard of that.
It was only around for a year and a half. So I happened to open up the page on this one because there's a post-it from years ago, and here's an article I used to do in Transworld called Technically Speaking.
History of Skateboard Design by Paul Schmitt. That's the video we're making.
This story is from August 1989. So I was very interested in skateboard history even then.
Yeah.
Larry Balma from Tracker had all this stuff sitting around his office because I didn't have old boards then myself.
Yeah.
I'd started to collect them over time, but we went through these, late 50s to early 60s, mid 60s, 70s, and then 81 to 89. And then pretty much when you get in the early 90s, skateboards look the same the whole time, ever since.
Popsicles.
Right? Gemma Popsicle.
So boring.
Yeah, compared to this, yeah.
Yeah, we got to bring it back.
But you see wheel diameters were changing, trucks were changing.
Yeah.
Technically Speaking was something I did in the magazine for 2 or 3 years or something.
Yeah.
But the magazine was bi-monthly.
Yeah.
So I had to do one every other month. The people would write in letters and I would use their letters to answer questions.
Wow.
And I'd talk about boards, trucks, wheels, ramps.
And the specifications and all the technical details.
That perspective of it. The magazine was bi-monthly. Then they turned it into a monthly magazine. It's like, that's a lot more work. and then,
it is.
And then basically we started New Deal skateboards, and I bailed out of Schmitt sticks, and now I had to run a business, and then it sort of faded away.
That's a whole story in itself.
Oh yeah. There's stories like crazy, right?
$95 complete skateboards.
Yep. Oh, so there's a professor ad.
Schmitt sticks overtime. I'm just doing my job. Having earned his master's degree in skateology, Professor Schmitt is on the verge of yet another major skateboard breakthrough. Are you ready for the next generation? That's you.
Yeah, skating the A-Tramp.
And this is, you got the lab coat already here.
Yeah, lab coat's already been around for a couple of years by the time this ad came out.
What? You have the custom...
Yeah.
This is incredible.
Yep,
Okay.
it was on the back of my Thunderbird.
This is legendary. And this is all you skating.
Yeah, and that's
So who said
October
you're not
'89.
good? Look at you.
So these were radial wheels, so they had aluminum hubs in them.
Wow.
So I'd make things really technical.
What is the
product-wise.
point of the aluminum hubs in there?
The aluminum hubs keep the bearings perfectly alignment. They're precision bearings. It lets precision bearings be precision.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Not jiggling around in
Not
the
jiggling
urethane.
around. So they were super fast, very expensive.
Really?
Nobody really copied it. I was copying some stuff that had been done in the 70s.
Right.
Was my influence. In the 80s, nobody else did it because nobody said we want a more expensive wheel.
Yeah, they want a cheaper
They
wheel.
want a cheaper wheel. They
Right.
want more money. It's an example of products that I made that people didn't copy,
Yeah.
and therefore they weren't successful. Didn't mean they weren't great products.
Yeah.
But if people don't copy it, you eventually go away, right? Like
Right.
It's not, people like, it's mine, I want to hold it. No, it's like you put it out there for the world, whatever you do, whatever you make. And that, in a sense, what you do with your videos, you put them out to the world, right?
Yeah.
Here's something to learn. Here's something you might be interested in.
Yeah, and keep it rolling.
That type of stuff.
Look at
Right.
it. That is a wild page. There's a lot going on there.
Oh yeah, but it was dreaming time. You'd be looking at this, dreaming about these boards.
Yeah, thinking, some of these are so cool.
So like here's another Technically Speaking on wheelbase, in teaching how wheelbase
Wow.
makes a board turn differently. Because in that era we had double truck holes. So I was explaining how that happens, right?
Okay, tell me everything. How does that? I've seen the double truck holes and I never knew what that was about. So that's a change of wheelbase.
Right, but more nose. So
Yeah.
you'd have shorter wheelbase,
Yeah,
board would turn tighter, longer wheelbase, it turns slower.
yeah.
So Gons was always moving his trucks back. Make me some holes and move them back. Right, so we make what he wanted. Here already we have a nose that's not as long as the tail,
Yeah.
but is as steep as the tail.
And this is a kind of a fish shape, a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's like a Chris Miller shape. Any picture, you could just look at that picture and go like, oh wow,
Yeah, this is like what I think of when I think of a skateboard magazine. Just full-blown pictures.
Right. So there's Chris Miller riding those radial wheels.
The metal inside.
Yeah.
So you made those
backside
wheels
ollie
right
to
there.
tail. Yep, and the board too.
And the board too, he said.
So here's a Schmitt Sticks ad with Danny Sargent.
Danny Sargent. So you sponsored a lot of people over
Yeah.
the years
Yep.
and helped a lot of people's careers grow.
Yeah.
Where's Danny Sargent now?
Minneapolis, Minnesota. with his daughter. So here's
Costin.
2003. So a video history.
Yeah.
So we already got history on Costin. That's 20 years ago.
That is amazing.
20 years ago, Costin had already made history. Right?
Amazing, amazing.
Pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. What? And who's this guy?
Ryan Sheckler.
Ryan Sheckler. Look at that.
Little tiny kid.
It's amazing.
Sheckler Pro Model coming soon.
Sick photo. The industry just changes so fast.
Yeah, you look at the brands and what's happening with the brands is huge, right?
Yeah. Enjoy.
Yeah.
So good.
The Structo trucks, I was part of that. I designed those.
Oh yeah, cool.
You know, but here this all looks like now, right? Like,
Yeah.
You know, the products, you might have a tone of a graphic, you know. Danny Way Board of Olympic things on it for Alien Workshop. Terrell Stanton.
Daryl Stanton.
Yeah.
That's a story as well.
You know, so all this like Zero is Zero or Die 2003 summer tour. So who got to see the Zero 2003 summer tour?
Yeah, leave it in the comments below.
Braille. Leave the comments though, okay? Who was there on August 4th in Lafayette, Louisiana? 303, they're still around in Colorado. I think Escapist is still around too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then you have the skate shops that are sort of keeping these, keeping this industry going too.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I remember this cover, Appleyard with the heel flip over the fence.
Yeah, so this one came to my building addressed to John Lucero.
That's amazing.
Ended up in my collection because I worked with him.
Sorry, John, we owe you a magazine.
Yeah. This is Stevie Williams. You're watching 411.
Amazing.
Collector's Edition DVD.
Leave it in the comments below if you know what 411 is.
Jason Lee.
It's interesting also the evolution of the magazines.
Yeah.
And now we got Thrasher, I think, is the only thing left.
Thrasher's the only thing left. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple little things like Coping Block out of Florida that's really about the vert scene.
Oh, wow.
You know?
That's
So
still going now.
There's some little magazines that just getting to 100 issues. So
Wow.
It's been around, you know. There's little magazines elsewhere people try to pop up and try, but it's hard to penetrate.
Yeah.
Thrasher's still there. It's amazing.
Especially now with digital media, you just take a photo, put it online. There's no place where all of these are online, is there?
Look Back Library helped Thrasher. Their magazines, their older ones, all archived digitally. You can go to Thrasher's website and put in my name and find stuff from years ago. So the skateboarder magazines, those are all online.
Yeah.
You know, so some people have scanned them. You just Google it.
Well, I think that was a wonderful history of skateboarding. I think we got a lot of data.
A lot of data, yeah. No doubt about it. You know, and if you're ever down in Costa Mesa, you can or go somewhere where there's a Look Back Library, you know?
Like an actual, so explain the Look Back Library.
So Look Back Library is this guy, Kevin Marks, and he started this project, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 years ago of archiving skateboard magazines.
Wow.
And he would go collect them. You know, you got old magazines, you call Kevin, he'll come pick them up when he's in your region.
Yeah.
He travels around the country and sets up libraries. You can go look at the old magazines and research what happened or what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool. So on Instagram, it's Look Back Library.
Look Back Library on Instagram. Look it up. Let's go. Check it out.
So printed skateboarded history is amazing because it's like a timestamp, right?
Yeah.
You know, you look at the clothes, you look at the picture, like the products, all of it. You know?
Yeah.
And in the digital world, in a sense, you know, you can make any of that now, right? But when it's in printed media, it's real.
Wow. So from all the way from this right here, all the way through the skateboard history.
Yep.
Well, thank you. That was amazing.
Yeah, glad to share. Glad to share a brief, short version of it. Hopefully, makes you curious, and you can Google and find stuff. You know, there's lots of stuff out there. You know, lots of stuff I've done over the years. If you just Google me and what you want to find, you'll probably find it. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes I get blown away. Like I don't remember doing that piece or that thing, and it pops up. I'm like, whoa, that's rad.
So how can people follow you? What should they do?
So I'm on Instagram at Professor Schmitt. There is some, I've never done good with YouTube, and there's some old stuff on a YouTube thing, but I never really promoted it or made a channel really work. You know?
Yeah.
But if you Google me, you'll find lots of stuff on YouTube.
All right, well, thank you so much. I think the history of skateboarding is so important. It's really cool to know how the boards progress, where we came from, and how this industry has evolved and will continue to evolve. So I learned a lot, so I'm super thankful. So thank you so much.
Glad to share.
Go follow Professor Schmitt on Instagram. You guys know what to do.
Skate and inspire daily.
Let's go!